Alright, so this video is aimed at those of you who are on the brink of going vegan, but just need that final bit of motivation to push you over the edge. So just to reiterate, this is not for the average non-vegan, who hasn't heard all the arguments yet and sees absolutely no reason whatsoever to be vegan. If that's you, please end the vid now and instead click on the link in the description below. What I find with those who are on the verge of going vegan is that there's two mental errors that they're making that are impeding on their transition. So now I'm going to address these and tell you the two things you need to do in order to make the switch. Okay, so number one is to replace can't with don't want to. What I find with people who are just on the verge of going vegan is that they're still stuck in this mindset that it's like, you look at the ingredients on a packet of crisps or something like that and it will contain milk powder and people say, oh no, I can't eat that. You have to replace this with the new mentality of I don't want to eat that. So if you're a vegan, remember, you oppose all forms of animal abuse. So instead of I can't eat at steak restaurants with my friends anymore, oh, I can't buy leather. I can't just walk into a clothes shop and just take stuff off the railings without looking at what it's made of. It's, I don't want to buy this. I don't want to attend this. I don't want to do that. Because after all, why would you want to? It harms animals. It abuses animals. If you're a vegan, you don't want to do these things. If you carry on being stuck in this mindset of can't instead of don't want to, what this will do is it will sort of frame it in your head as if you're the victim and you're the one being restricted and oppressed, when really animals are the real victims and you don't want to harm them in any way. And that applies as well with things when people offer you stuff, instead of saying, I can't drink milk or something like that, you say, I don't drink milk. So, it doesn't necessarily always need to be I don't want to. It can also just be don't. The key thing is using that word don't instead of can't. And that would be my first tip. Okay, my second bit of advice, and this is very different from other bits of advice you might hear. In fact, it runs completely contrary from things you might hear from other vegan pages, actually. And you probably won't like it, but that's the idea. You're not actually meant to like this thing. This is meant to push you, okay? So my second bit of advice is to be hard on yourself. What I often find is that a lot of big vegan pages and influencers and stuff will tell people, these things that actually keep people stuck in this repetitive pattern of animal abuse, because they end up just thinking that, we all make mistakes and everything's okay. An example of this would, be something like you're one of these people who's on the verge of going vegan. You've seen all the stuff, you've been convinced by all the arguments. Then you end up going to the shop and you buy a pizza with cow lactation on it, and then you say to yourself after something like, because of what these influencers have told you, oh, we all make mistakes and this is just a slip up and all this kind of stuff. And no, the truth is it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a slip up. You intentionally did that. Vegans can make actual mistakes. You might buy a product that's generally had vegan ingredients, and then the manufacturer has added something non-vegan to it or something. One notable example of this would be Yellowtail wines, for example. So vegans were all buying Yellowtail wines, and suddenly the manufacturer started adding I think it was gelatin or albumin or something like that into the wine production, making it no longer vegan. Now, if you were continuing to buy that, and the company didn't make that clear, by the way, they didn't state that would just be a mistake. That'd be oh shit, well that was a mistake of me to buy that. But that wasn't really my fault. But intentionally going out and buying a non-vegan product that is not vegan, that's not a mistake, that's not a slip up. You didn't just fall over in the supermarket, it landed in your trolley and then it just magically went to the checkout and it bought itself. You intentionally did that yourself. That is not a mistake. You specifically, if anything, went out of your way that day to harm animals because there's all the vegan alternatives available. You didn't have to buy that pizza. You didn't have to buy those pig sausages when you could have bought the vegan ones. So you have to say to yourself, instead of getting into this pattern of, saying, I'll get there eventually and this was just a one-off. which will ultimately keep you in the cycle of violence. You have to say to yourself, man, that was bad of me. I committed an act of animal abuse today. You have to say these hard things to yourself, or the truth is you'll never switch. And this is why so many people, they've watched all the documentaries, they've watched they've watched Dominion, they've seen Gary's speech, whatever it is, but they're still doing these things because they're not being hard on themselves. If you're not hard on yourself, you won't make the switch. It's simple as that. So yeah, it's important, I think, to replace that with this phrase. If you find yourself doing something like that, intentionally buying a non-vegan product, instead of saying, I slipped up or I made a mistake today, say to yourself this instead: I intentionally funded animal abuse today. If you manage to replace phrases like that with the more realistic phrase, the chances of you ever doing that again are slim to none. So that would be my second tip: be hard on yourself. And I just want to say, do you know why that tip is especially important, to be hard on yourself if you're about to go vegan? The answer is because no one else will. Because that's just human nature, is we're all nice to each other, especially in this non-vegan world, right? People are ultimately just going to pat you on the back and say, there, you just made a slip up, you just made a mistake, don't beat yourself up over it. You have to be the person who trains yourself. You're your own trainer in this. Other people aren't going to push you over the edge and going vegan. You're ultimately fighting your own conscience here. You're the one saying to yourself, I no longer want to be an animal abuser. Don't let non-vegans, pat you on the back and say stuff like, you slipped up and you made a mistake. Otherwise, why the hell would you ever change? Anyway, to those of you who are wanting to make the switch, I hope that's helpful. And if you're already vegan and know someone who's on the brink of going vegan, please share this video with them. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and share this vid. And if you want to support my work and help me make more vids, support me on Patreon. Thanks so much.